Can start recording. Thank you. Next slide. Welcome to our presentation. We are excited to be here today. You are joining Creating WebXR Exhibit Rooms. Student VR newbies share their experience and examples. Next slide. Thank you for introducing yourselves in the chat and letting us know where you're joining us from. I am Rosa Rodriguez. My preferred pronouns are she, her, ella. Here today with Sarah Walters and Kelly Gifford. In this session, we will share our journey in creating our own Mozilla Hubs exhibit rooms and graduation party rooms completed in the fall of 2021 semester. We will be sharing our insights and ideas, and we will answer any of your questions at the end of the presentation. Next slide. This session will provide a brief introduction to Mozilla Hubs. We're going to be sharing our experiences in creating a web extended reality room and ways that you can integrate hubs in your own libraries and some of the challenges we experienced. Sarah and I both created a virtual reality graduation room for our family, friends, and other visitors to virtually celebrate our accomplishments in completing our Master Library and Information Science degree. We created the rooms using Mozilla Hubs. Hubs is an open source that doesn't require for you to download any software, and you don't need any special equipment. If you are interested in creating your own virtual rooms with ability to save them, all you'll need is your email. For our rooms, we use images, virtual posters, links, and other videos. We also use Sketchfab, which is integrated into Hubs that allows you to add a variety of 3D models. Kelly and I both use Spoke to customize our rooms. Spoke is a web editor side of Mozilla Hubs and allows you to customize your virtual rooms. Kelly created a teen manga room, and in her presentation, she will be discussing her experience with learning hubs and exploring other VR platforms. And just a few things about Hubs. Hubs is spatial. It mimics how you can interact and how you interact in person. And Hubs also allows you to include, as I mentioned earlier, some videos, pictures, even GIFs, music, and sound. And you can also create selfie stations in your rooms by adding a camera and take group pictures, and with the ability to tweet your pictures instantaneously. And just a quick reminder that if you have any questions, please answer them in the chat. We will answer them at the end. Next slide. My experience with Hubs. I started first by selecting the content for my room. I wanted to provide my guests with interactive links and visuals that would provide them with a glimpse of my 4-year journey in the MLIS program. I used Canva to create the graphics. The graphics showcase my conference presentations, special projects, articles that I wrote, and some congratulation videos from some of the SJSU faculty. Next slide. My next step was designing a room. And how I started doing that was looking at Hubs and choosing a room. Keeping in mind the number of works I had selected, I wanted a room that would accommodate the graphics I created. I also included some of my favorite artwork, as you see in the image here on this slide. There's a Frida Kahlo image and a lady sitting on the window and a raven, and The Kiss by Klimt. I also wanted to make sure that I added an image that provided guests with instructions on how to use their mouse and keyboard to navigate through the rooms. Next slide. I ended up selecting a 3-story house. I really like this house because it had 3 stories, and it also had a really nice entrance and a rooftop. As you can see in the images here on the slide, there's umbrellas that I added, a tree, a telescope. So there's a variety of things that you can include in your own rooms. I also wanted to personalize it and to create a welcoming space for my guests. And as I mentioned also before, I created selfie stations throughout the house. Next slide. Getting ready for my celebration, I sent out and created an invitation that you see here on that slide. And in that email that I sent out the invitation, I included instructions on how they would navigate through the virtual rooms. During my virtual celebration, guests used the selfie stations, engaged with the content, and explored the various floors. Next slide. So a little bit about my experience that the guests had during my celebration. Some of the guests joined with Mac, personal computers, and iPhones. And I had about a total of 10 guests for my celebration. Most of them lived in the local area of San Diego, but some of them also joined me from other states. And some of the guests experienced connectivity issues with their Wi-Fi. As far as navigating through the rooms, everyone did really well. They mentioned that it was easy to explore the different floors. This also included using their phones. So what's great about hubs? So for me, it was the number of rooms that you have to select from, and also the ability to customize the room, that it was easy to navigate for guests, and the ability to invite family and friends to meet in one space and have one-to-one engagement, or also be in groups. And then also sharing my journey through the MLIS program. In addition to using this as a living site to demonstrate my professional development and my CV. Some of the challenges was learning how to use Spoke. I did look at the video tutorials, pardon me, and I also had support from my partner who was more familiar with Spoke. Some of the issues that some of the guests included, as I mentioned, was the Wi-Fi. And I think it was mostly the ones that were using their iPhones. And the engaging with guests as a group became a little bit challenging because of those connectivity issues that I mentioned earlier. And also remembering to log into my account so that my work would be lost. So I mentioned creating an account to save your rooms. So one of the times I did forget to log in, and I worked on my room and lost the work that I had. So that's something that I needed to remember. So that was my overall experience in creating my virtual reality room. And now I'm going to hand it over to Sarah.
Thanks, Rosa. And hi, everyone. I also made a VR graduation party room in fall semester 2021. Before this experience, I didn't have any firsthand experience with WebXR or web browser-based VR or VR video games. This is a screenshot of my avatar in the Hubs room. It's a selfie, and I picked a pre-made Hubs room with a tree in the center. Next slide, please. So I signed up for this VR graduation party room opportunity to get experience with this emerging technology. It didn't take long during fall semester 2021 to select and curate the files that I would use for the room and the objects that would go on the walls, and get used to navigating in the space and aligning and placing objects and finalizing everything in the room. And next slide, please. This is a screenshot from my VR graduation party. This was a unique way to share my accomplishments in the MLIS program with family and friends. The room features congratulatory videos, a link to a guest book, photos, and 3D models of things like a graduation cap and party hats. And I just recently added a picture of my MLIS degree to the room. And someday, if I want to, I could make a portfolio room and add a link to this room to link the rooms together. It can be customized and edited in the future. And the photos are from projects I worked on during the MLIS degree. And next slide, please. So just for fun, after making the VR graduation party room, I thought, well, what would be another kind of interesting way to use Hubs? So I thought about making a natural history museum gallery, just for like a proof of concept idea. So in the bottom left corner, that's a 3D model of a dinosaur nest. And all the 3D models I found on Sketchfab. Next slide, please. That's a diorama model of extinct marine species. And all these 3D models can be resized so they can look like you're actually walking in a natural history museum. Next slide, please. So this fossil 3D model was actually created by the Smithsonian, and they shared it on Sketchfab. And people can share 3D models they create on Sketchfab with a Creative Commons license. And I thought, well, what would be a good way to have like captions or labels that you would see in a museum? So the links on the walls, they go to web pages from natural history museums with information about each species and or the era of that fossil. So for other newbies, if you're looking to get started with WebXR, web browser-based VR, and you haven't used this technology before, there are a lot of possibilities for these kinds of free, creative, interactive experiences and spaces using hubs and other websites. And now I will hand it over to Callie.
Great, thank you so much, Sarah. Hi, everybody. My first experience with Mozilla Hubs was actually creating a sample room to show the graduates that were creating their own rooms. I got the opportunity to work with both Sarah and Rosa on creating their rooms, and part of my job on the graduation VR project was to help guide the graduates in their learning process and provide examples of what can be done. That's what this screenshot is a sample of my graduation room that I made. In order to be able to do that, though, I had to learn how to use hubs too. It didn't take me long to learn it, but the technology was so exciting and fun that I really wanted to learn more. So after working with the graduates on creating their rooms, I wanted to create a new room, something that I thought I might actually use in the real world. So I decided to create the manga club room. This is a room that actually has a practical application. I would use this room in a library. I used to host a manga club at my last library, and this room would have been so great to use back then. It allows the club to meet in person and virtually at the same time by literally extending the walls of the library so anyone can participate in a club or a group, even if they're not able to attend in person. Being able to add this type of technology to a library setting allows us to reach even more people. And as Sarah aptly showed us, the opportunities for practical uses for these rooms are endless. There's so many different platforms available for VR experiences. However, I really like the ones that allow you to access them from any device. The next two platforms that I'm going to share with you can be accessed via a computer, a smartphone, VR goggles, like Hubs can as well. The first platform that I want to talk about is called Frame, and like Hubs, it's also web-based. This is a relatively new platform that's still in beta testing, but as you can see from the screenshot, it's absolutely gorgeous. I co-created this room with Bethany Winslow, the Director of Online Learning for the School of Information, for a grant proposal that the iSchool director is working on. I really enjoy working in Frame, and I feel like it does have a lot of similar properties to Hubs in the way that you can add items to the room, the ability to share your screen while in world, and adding a 360 photo. But it has some differences as well. But being able to share and explore these other platforms and learn to use them has been a lot of fun. They each have their own strengths and weaknesses, and being able to use different platforms for different projects is a really helpful skill, in my opinion. The last platform that I want to mention is Second Life. It's been around since 2003, and SJSU has actually had a region in Second Life for over 10 years. It's very different from Frame or Hubs, and it's much more advanced, but it offers a lot more also, including more detailed avatars, as you can see from my screenshot, very detailed buildings and locations. I'm still new to Second Life, and I'm still kind of figuring out my way around that platform, but I'm excited to start creating content for this platform also. So that's all for us, everybody. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, like we mentioned, and we're going to get to as many of them as we can in the next few minutes. We also will be in our Hubs rooms after the presentation if you guys want to come visit us in World, but feel free to visit our rooms anytime. We're going to have our, here's our links to all of our information, as well as the links to all of our Hubs rooms. So feel free to grab a screenshot of that or write that down so you can either come visit our rooms or shoot us an email if you have further questions if we can't get to them right now.
Someone did ask if these were free platforms, and Mozilla Hubs is free, a free platform.
Yeah, Frame is as well on a limited basis. And I believe Second Life is also, you do have to download the web platform basically for Second Life, though. It's not browser based like Hubs and Frame are. So there's a little more involved in that.
And I'm just checking the chat to see if there's any other questions.
Great, thanks, Rosa.
There's just some comments. That's a very striking screenshot. That they're intrigued. That's from Elizabeth.
Also, someone says, I like the weird puppet avatars of Hubs. Haha.
Yeah, there are some really fun avatars. I created or found and downloaded a couple of unique avatars, like the Hellboy one that you saw in one of my screenshots. That's part of the fun, is using and creating avatars that either represent your personality in kind of a different way or in the way that you want to be represented in world. So it's neat to be able to kind of show a different part of your personality. Yes, Carrie, I see your question. I will drop the links in the chat for our VR rooms. Oh, perfect. Rosa got it. Thank you, Rosa.
Of course. And I'll just comment on some of my experiences while we wait for some of the questions. I think it's such a great way for different libraries also to create their own virtual spaces for programming. So if you are from a public library, you can create rooms for like book clubs, maybe even some type of discussions on different topics. So there are a variety of ways that you can implement these at your own campuses or public libraries, or even in your own high school libraries as well. I know that Kelly did a teen manga room, which I think was such a fun room to create. So it's not just strictly for adults. So, you know, children are welcomed and invited, as well as some of those teenagers or even families. So it's
Absolutely.
not, yeah, it's not just limited. There's other great ways. Someone else that I know also created like a serenity room for de-stressing students at his campus. And I thought that was really great. They had a playlist of music as well as some fun videos of animals. And they also use Padlet to share some of their pets with the students. And who doesn't love pets, right?
What
So
a
there
fun
are a variety
idea.
of ways.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Rosa. I also wanted to just mention really quick too, if you guys are interested in jumping in or learning about Hubs or any VR or Frame, there's tutorials everywhere online. Hubs themselves on their website has a bunch of entry-level tutorials on how to get started and what to do. We didn't want to jump too much into that because those already exist. So we wanted to primarily focus on our experience, but Frame on their website also has a lot of really great tutorials on how to get started. Matthew says, I can also see it as a potentially great tool for virtual escape rooms. Absolutely. That's a great idea. That's the thing about these virtual reality rooms, is the sky is literally the limit. Basically anything that you can think to do, it can be done in one way or another on one platform or another. And that's why it's nice that there's so many different options. And once you learn one, you kind of have a leg up on learning the other ones. They're all very similar. And so you can, you know, kind of like I said, pick and choose different ones that work for you in different ways, and, you know, maximize what you can do. It's literally limitless. It's very fun.
And I wanted to mention, in fall semester 2021, I attended a Zoom event about like the projects that the SJSU information school was working on with in platforms like Hubs, and they had this really cool like art gallery, and then there was like this national portrait gallery with portraits of Native Americans, and then there was a room with 3D models that people had created celebrating Dia de los Muertos, just all kinds of different, like, and then something with because some students, or because students during the pandemic, they couldn't visit campus. So they created models of buildings on campus. So these, yeah, there's just a lot of ways for like for it to be used for education and like Rosa and Callie were mentioning, like all types of libraries and yeah, lots of cool ideas out there.
That's exactly it, Sarah. That's perfect. Thank you for sharing that, because that's such a great representation of different things that can be done.
One of my own goals at the library that I work for is to create as Sarah mentioned, a Dia de los Muertos room, where I invite participants to share some of their family pictures, and then they can come back and enter and view some altars that I might have created, and just kind of explore some of the traditions that the Dia de los Muertos has, and have an informative page on there. Because one of the great things about hubs is that you can link to other websites. So there's a lot of versatility on how you can use hubs. You're welcome, Clara. I'm glad that you were able to join us.
There is a question about, it looks like the frame room has a participant limit. Is that common to hubs and frame?
Yeah, there are limits. Typically, it's based on bandwidth, it's based on internet, availability and all of that. But what Hubs recommends is they usually recommend about 20 people in a room, unless your room is very big and very full. Rosa's room, for example, she's got a lot of stuff in it. There's a lot of things on the walls. So, I would recommend maybe 8 to 10 people in a room her size. Same with my manga club room, because there's a lot going on. If you have too many people in there, it kind of bogs down the server and makes it hard to maneuver, and there can be delays. It can even crash the room sometimes, but that's okay. Those are the types of things that you learn in VR. It's just like, you know what, that's all right. We're just gonna reload and restart and try it again, and you'll move right on with it. So but yeah, there are some room limits, and same with frame. There are some limits to how many people you should have in your room. Thank you for the question.
Someone said, I think historical moments might be fun. Walking on the moon in 1969, riding the bus with Parks, and many others. Such a great idea, Earl. Absolutely. I think that you can create things, and also, making sure that the things that you're putting inside your room are appropriate, as well as copyright issues. We don't want to go there. You don't want to make sure that those are free to use.
And to add to that, in Sketchfab, like there's a lot of downloadable 3D models. Like I don't think people, or you might need an email account to download some of them, but a lot of people share their 3D models, like all the fun like dinosaur stuff I found was all shared with a Creative Commons license. And so in my VR graduation party room, I made like a PDF file with credits and like links to the, where people can find them in Sketchfab. Yeah, it was just cool seeing like how much is out there that people like all this creative, because not everybody has the time to make these 3D models and stuff. And so to see like all these cool options on these websites.
Absolutely. And it's important to give credit, like you did, Sarah, to the people that created them, because it does take time and effort. And so making sure that you're linking those things and giving the people credit that created the 3D photo or the 360 photo or created the models is really important. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, someone else said could be great for interactive archives or exhibits. Absolutely. I love all these great ideas that you all are sharing with us.
I was just going to say that too. There's been a ton of really fun, great ideas. Now that you're all inspired, you all have to go out and create VR rooms.
Yes, definitely. And then make sure you share it with us, because we'd love to explore your rooms.
Definitely.
Well, it looks like we have about 1 minute left. So if you have a burning question, please enter it in the chat. Otherwise, we want to thank you for joining us for our session. It was a pleasure to be here with you all. And thank you for sharing all those awesome ideas with us.
And like we said, if we're going to be in our VR rooms for the next 15 or 20 minutes. So if you guys come up with another question, or you want to just come visit us and see our rooms, feel free to use those links that Rosa dropped in the chat or that are on our slide, and come hang out with us for a few minutes. Come say hi.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Bye, everybody.
Sarah, Rosa, and